Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Lovecats86 in the True Off My Chest subreddit. The post is titled, "I recently found out that my husband is cheating on me with our married best friend. They don't know that I know, but I caught them making out at the end of our driveway when he was seeing her off after dinner with our family. We live on a small acreage and the driveway is a long way from the main house. She had forgotten some crockery at the house and I decided to walk it over because for some reason, the two of them always took a while to say goodbye. That's when I saw them lit by her car's headlights, making out in the front seat with our best friend straddling my husband. In shock, I didn't know whether to throw her Pyrex at the car or just walk away. I decided on the latter and was too shocked to cry or be angry. When my husband got back, I had to pretend like everything was normal. I know that it's stupid, but I couldn't sleep that night and decided to go through his phone. She was obviously under a pseudonym, but I found a handful of their messages dating back 2 or 3 years. Her husband doesn't know. He's currently posted overseas as a diplomat. I'm sick with rage and betrayal. I'm lost and have no idea what steps to take next. Update. Whoa, I didn't expect this much support. It's really overwhelming. Just to clarify a few things, this is a private account I created just for this post, away from my usual account because I was scared it would be traced back to me. I want to remain anonymous as much as I can. I don't live in the US, but in Australia. Technically, I can't file for divorce immediately, as you need to be separated for 1 year and 1 day to file officially. My now ex-best friend just recently returned to the country after being posted with her husband overseas. The dinner was to welcome her home, and what a welcome. There are some comments here about the headlights illuminating them. Sorry, I meant overhead lights. As to what I'm going to do now, a part of me just wants to confront my husband to see what lame excuse he has, but I need to get away from him. This level of betrayal physically hurts. I can't help but think of all the times we spent together over the years and for how long our families were fooled. My mind is going crazy. When she was single and he would rescue her from some bad date, or the times they were alone in my house when the kids and I were out. How irrationally angry he was when he found out she had a boyfriend then chose to marry him. Thinking back on it, the two of them disappeared at her wedding. When I asked him where he was, he said he needed to reassure her that she had done the right thing. I feel so sick thinking of these things. Update. Thank you everyone for your concern and advice. As of tomorrow, my husband is out of town. I've tried really hard to act normal around my now ex-best friend, but it's proving difficult and I feel sick. I have been telling both of them that I've caught some terrible bug and just am not feeling myself. While my husband is out of town for the next few days, my sister-in-law, who is the only other person who knows, will help me pack important documents and store them somewhere my husband doesn't know about. I have organized for my kids to stay with them for a week while I sort my situation out. I have spoken to a family lawyer and they have told me that the best way to start the separation procedure is to no longer live under the same roof. I'm fortunate in that most of our assets are also in my name and the land our house is on was gifted to us by my parents. I'm planning to kick him out after his trip, but before that I want to catch them both in the act again, have some hard proof, send it to the ex-friend's husband and get the ball rolling for moving on with my life. I'll update with what happens after the confrontation. Update 2. My husband came home 2 nights ago from his trip. While he was gone, I had organized a lot of the important documents, for example, financial records, birth certificates, passports, anything that he could potentially use to try and get more than what he deserves. They are now safely stored, and my kids have been staying with their aunt and uncle for the past few days. I had packed all my husband's things, and he has been really good at keeping his tracks clean because there was no evidence of his affair within his stuff. I placed all his belongings in the garage ready for the confrontation with him. I was super nervous because I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. Once he came home and I remembered seeing him kissing our best friend, I remembered the deep hurt they had caused. I was in our kitchen when he came home and he knew straight away something was wrong. During that week, I had been distant and had barely answered his texts and screened his calls. I did answer every now and again and gave the kids a chance to speak to their dad. He asked me why I hadn't been responding to his texts, and he tried to kiss me, but I turned away, and before I knew it, the first things that came out of my mouth were, "I want a separation." I have to admit that he didn't look very surprised when I said it. He nodded his head and said, "What do you know?" Which was just a punch in the gut because I wanted him to deny it or say something like it was a one-off thing. I asked him to tell me everything, like when did it start, and he said they started about 10 years ago. At first it was flirtatious messaging and a sneaky kiss in the office when they briefly worked together, and the affair was on and off. She apparently always felt guilty, and her way out of that was to marry the next man who was interested in her and proposed. He admitted that they had sex on her wedding day, and when he is out of town, they meet. At this point, I couldn't breathe and I was sobbing. I hated that the next words out of my mouth were, "Did you even ever love me?" He hesitated and said yes, of course, but he was never in love with me the way he was with her. I cleared my throat and said to him that he should tell her husband there is no point hiding it anymore. I told him that all his stuff was in the garage and he can find somewhere else to stay. I let him know that I have spoken to a family lawyer, and I told him that when I feel ready, and only when I feel ready, will we see each other again and talk about the future arrangement with the kids. I said any further communication can be done through my sister-in-law or my brother. I said he is allowed to see the kids, but only at their place. I am, of course, wanting full custody of the children because it hurts too much to give him anything at this point. He agreed to all my points because he knew he was in the wrong. He tried to say sorry, and then I absolutely lost my temper and screamed, "No way are you sorry. For 10 years you have both deceived everyone we know. Please take your things and leave and tell that woman you have been with for 10 years that I do not ever want to see her face again." Certainly not my shining moment, but also a culmination of all the hurt and anger over the last few weeks that they have caused. I have no intention of talking to my ex-best friend or really to my soon-to-be ex-husband until I have had the time to grieve. So thank you, community, for the encouragement and advice. I hope I can heal and move on from this. 1 year later, OP gave us their final update. Thank you to everyone who has been messaging over the last year to see how I'm doing and asking for an update. It's been a crazy, painful year, but our divorce has been finalized and I'm free. My ex-husband and my ex-best friend, as no surprise, are now in an actual relationship after the ex-best friend's husband found out about the affair. He divorced her, and since then we have met up for coffee to check in on each other and our mental health. He's been great sending encouraging messages, and he lives overseas and from his Facebook updates has started dating again, so I'm very happy for him. The legal and custody battles have been fairly stressful, but the ex-husband agreed to all my terms. The custody of the children was the only thing he really fought for. I have custody of the kids and he sees them on the weekends. The kids, including myself, have all been going to therapy separately. My ex-husband wants to see them more, and during school breaks, the kids have the choice to stay with him or me. They have been good about it, staying with him for a week or so and then back to their mum. Apart from necessary conversation, I steer away from my ex-husband and the ex-best friend. It still hurts so much, and I understand that it will take some time to heal, but I am letting go because I don't want them to have that level of influence over my life. I decided to sell the property we were living in and move closer to family and friends because, as you know, it takes a village. I have been extremely grateful for the support I have received over the last year. I'm tearing up just as I'm writing this, knowing that I couldn't have gone through all of this without my loved ones. As for myself, I am happy overall, still a work in progress, but grateful for life. The kids and I have been enjoying life, and when we have the time and the money, we try to take little trips here and there so the traumatic events of the divorce don't linger and can be replaced by good memories. Memories where they spent road trips and adventures with their mum. Onion Man said, "Cheating on your wedding day is next level scumbaggery. Advanced scumbaggery." FJBP95 said, "I'm almost certain her ex and ex-best friend are going to cheat on each other." Mosauce said, 10 years is insane. Any cheaters reading this, please just break up, get a divorce, whatever. Just leave the person you're cheating on. What you are doing is beyond selfish. You are tricking them into an exclusive relationship while you are dating whoever. You are using their trust in you against them. It's disgusting. This next post was made in the Am I a Hater subreddit. The post is titled, "I grew from the divorce and became the husband and father my ex had wanted me to be. I was the asshole, I know it. My ex and I, both in our 40s, married in college in our early 20s. We went from living in the dorms together to being married and living on our own in another state due to my job. We enjoyed the honeymoon period with each other, along with being young 20-somethings in an exciting new city. Not long after being married, she was pregnant, and our first child was born a few months after our first anniversary. She was a stay-at-home mom, and I picked up overtime to cover everything. She matured way faster than I did to support the baby. I was still closer to being a college dorm student than I was a husband, father, or equal partner. We had constant fights about how I wasn't doing enough to help or support her physically or emotionally. I kept trying to tell her how I was doing enough, how I worked 80 hours last week, how I changed a diaper last week, how I cooked my own meal so she wouldn't have to, etc. She would explain her problems and how I could help her, but I didn't hear them. I just wanted to argue. I used weaponized incompetence before that term was coined. In my mind, I was working hard, and she was just being unrealistic and couldn't see how much I did. In reality, there was far more work than I realized. My ex was drowning and asking for help, and all I would do was argue with her about how there was no way she was drowning. Things would improve every few months, partly because I would do a little more work, partly because she just internalized her frustrations and stopped initiating conversations about them. We had another child during this time, but this soon added even more stress, and the fights grew even worse. Eventually, she said she couldn't handle it any longer and moved in with family a few hours away. I tried to win her back through love bombing and figured she would come to her senses, so I was extremely surprised when I got served the divorce papers. I couldn't believe it. I never cheated on her, I didn't abuse her, I had no vices, we loved each other. How could she be divorcing me? Yet she did, and when we met with lawyers, I was taken off guard by how much resentment there was towards me. Where had that come from? We agreed to every other weekend visitations. The first time I had to take care of my 2 toddlers on my own for 2 whole days was an eye-opener. I had done it once or twice when married, but she had prepped everything, pre-made the meals, picked out the clothes, cleaned the house, etc. I was still learning how to consistently do the laundry, wash the dishes every day, and pick up after myself. I had gone from living with my parents to living in the dorms with roommates who constantly cleaned to living with my ex. I knew how to take care of a house, but never had to do it all on my own. Someone else always picked up the slack. And now I was fully responsible for that and for 2 little lives for 48 hours. I remember being completely overwhelmed and hit by a huge wave of empathy and understanding of where she had been over the past few years and what I had done to her. I apologized to her, but that only made her angrier. So I grew up, I vowed to make the most out of each weekend with my children. I learned how to cook, I learned how to braid hair, I bought tons of unnecessary toddler supplies and packed them all in the stroller just in case my kids needed something on a walk, etc. On my own time, I picked up new hobbies and went to the gym. I read the nonfiction, how-to, and relationship books that my ex had been begging me to read. Overall, I worked on myself and tried to become a super dad to my kids. A couple of years after the divorce, I started dating again. Being a single dad in my late 20s was a turn-off to a lot of women, and I was rejected often, but I found myself being matched with other single moms and really connecting with them. I eventually met my now wife, a single mom whose ex had abandoned her for someone else and wanted nothing to do with their children. To her, I was the perfect catch, a loving dad who worked hard, did the household chores, and was devoted to her. I learned from my mistakes in my first marriage and took all the criticisms my ex had made about me to heart and improved from them. I became the husband my ex tried to make me into. I still slip up and still have a lot to learn, but I do that with the support of my wife. I would still see my ex every other week, and the relationship improved somewhat, but there was still an undertone of resentment in each interaction. She went back to school, got a job, and raised our kids as a single mom. I tried to get more visitation as they got older, but she fought back, and due to them living too far for daily visits, I only got longer summers with them. I have no idea about her dating life. I never asked the kids about her, but she is unmarried. I know very little about her life. She could be very happy and enjoying everything, but within our few interactions, very little of that shows. Now, our youngest is a senior and going to graduate, and I've been talking to my ex more to prepare for it. It's mostly cordial, but occasionally hints of anger and passive-aggressive comments come out. I have thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and raising them, and again apologized for never being there or taking her seriously all those years ago. I still feel like the asshole sometimes because of how she understandably treats me, and other times just from my own guilt over how I treated her when we were married. She is about to have an empty nest after devoting her life to our children when I failed her, and I am living the suburban family life we had planned for, but with someone other than her. Am I still the asshole for learning from my divorce and becoming the husband I should have been with my ex? Update. Thank you to those who continue to reach out for updates. While nothing has changed from my previous post's original question, there was an event that brought a little closure recently. My youngest child, now 18, with my ex-graduates this month. My ex held a party for them at her house, which was attended by immediate family and friends from both sides. It was the first time many members of our respective families had been together since our wedding over 20 years ago. Overall, the party went very well. Our daughter was celebrated and felt appreciated. She said it felt a little weird to have her two worlds collide, such as when her step-siblings hung out with her maternal cousins, or when both sets of grandparents spent lots of time talking with each other and laughing. It brought a pang of guilt that my daughter didn't remember a time when her grandparents were close friends, as they were before her mother and I divorced. My wife and my ex spent time together and laughed a few times. My wife won't tell me what they talked about, so my guess is they shared some common war stories about me. My ex and I had a chance to talk as well. We mostly talked about the kids and how proud we were of our daughter, how excited she is to move for college, and what our oldest child was up to. She asked what was next with our family, and I gave updates about my younger kids and their future graduations and activities. She said she was excited and a little anxious about having an empty nest. Her job is mostly the same, but going well, and she is planning on traveling. She also casually dropped the name Mark during our conversation, and I had no idea who she was talking about. Maybe he's someone she's seeing, but she didn't elaborate, I didn't pry, and the topic moved on. I suspect we each assume our kids inform the other parent about our respective life updates more than they actually do, because it didn't seem like she was trying to drop major news on me when she said it. There was no Mark present at the party, so I really have no idea what their connection is. Near the end, I again thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and briefly re-apologized for my actions years ago. She replied kindly and apologized for fighting so hard against me when I requested more visitation a decade ago. We returned to talking about the kids, and the conversation mostly ended after that. And that seems like it. I don't see the need for other updates. I doubt I will see much of my ex. The kids, now adults, are both doing their own things, have their own cars, and can visit their individual parents and siblings as they wish. There are no more visitation drop-offs between my ex and me. There will probably be college graduations and maybe eventual weddings, but beyond that, our interactions are mostly finished. While we both caused each other frustration, pain, and resentment over the years after the divorce, and I will always have my guilt for failing her in our marriage, in the end, we successfully raised two happy children who are starting their own adult lives. Each of our lives took unexpected paths to get here, but we got here nonetheless, and are proud our children made it through while feeling loved. My wife and younger kids are also happy and doing well. There are tons of updates with all of them, but those aren't relevant to this subreddit. I am not the asshole to them. I'm just dad and husband. Jen and B said, I mean, it sounds like he was a terrible husband and parent when he was married to his first wife. It also sounds like he improved a lot once he got his head out of his arse. He shouldn't be looking for a gold star for effort from his first wife, though. It's always going to be too little. Too late for her, and rightfully so. I'm glad that he's improved and that he's still working on himself, while also being very, very glad I wasn't the one who was married to him. OP is always going to be some degree of an asshole to his first wife, and that's just the way life shakes out sometimes. It's not his ex-wife's job to make him feel better about that. Electronic World said, this is why you don't have children when you're still figuring yourself out in your early 20s. Pandora Anatastic said, I think the uncomfortable truth that OP seems to overlook is that while it's great when someone terrible grows, changes, and becomes a better person, it doesn't undo the harm they did when they were terrible. It doesn't stop counting because you're better now, especially when other people may still be living with the long-term effects of your past bad behavior. Sometimes making amends takes a lot more than just saying sorry. Sometimes you have to fix what you broke. And sometimes it's too late to fix it, and you just have to live with the fact that you will never escape what you did to someone else. That's the price you pay for hurting someone in a way that can never get better for them. This last post was made in the Legal Advice UK subreddit by a user named Tree Admirable. The post is titled, Young Kids Attacked Our Warhammer Club and Smashed Up Our Models. One of our members was arrested trying to prevent a Titan being destroyed. I'm president of a Warhammer/tabletop gaming club in the UK. We meet up in a church every weekend to play with tiny plastic soldiers. While we were meeting last weekend, a crowd of 5 children entered on electric scooters through the church car park. We have a strict policy of no kids under the age of 16 unless they are accompanied by an adult, so we asked them politely to leave. They took this badly, and the following events happened. Stabbing threats were made against a member of our committee by a child wielding a box cutter. Tables were flipped and models were deliberately smashed. Resin models costing in excess of £4,000 were destroyed and stomped on. Fire was set to pieces of terrain and a battle mat. This was extinguished, but both are now unusable. Police were called and the children sprinted off on their scooters once they heard the sirens. Of the 5 children, 3 escaped, 1 was caught by police, and 1 was grabbed by an autistic member of our gaming club and restrained as the child was in the process of trying to smash up a resin titan adorned with freehand paint. The police took the 2 children away, but they also arrested the autistic member of our gaming club for hurting the child. The child alleged and screamed that our member had broken his arm, although he gave us a middle finger and stuck his tongue out when the police weren't watching his direction. We have not yet heard from our autistic member and do not know what is going on with him. His family is handling that side of things. With respect to the children, we have been informed that the ones who were caught are 8 and 9 years old, respectively, and the other 3 kids are likely in the same year. The police have informed us that they have not been able to charge the children as they are beneath the age of liability. There were discussions about a possible local child curfew. My concern is that a curfew would only partially cover the hours during which our club opens. What I want to know is, what is likely to happen to our autistic member for restraining someone who is trying to destroy his property? Our club's insurance did not cover criminal damage. Is there any way that compensation can be extracted from these children? We still have 2 of their electric scooters that the police failed to collect from the scene of the crime. We think we have found the brands that they had for sale online, and each one appears to cost between £350 and £600 new. Damage is still being assessed. The total cost of replacing destroyed models and terrain has reached £4,500. However, this does not account for the expensive paint jobs that went into these models. Is that something which can also be added on? It would probably double or triple that figure. Before anyone asks, gluing the figures back together is not an option. The vast majority of what has been damaged are resin models. They are incredibly delicate and have snapped and shattered. Even if they could be repaired, they would appear horrendously deformed. Update. The committee has voted to release the following statement. We have been unable to recover any damages from any of the children or their families. No children who attacked our club faced any criminal charges or prosecutions. They are still on the streets causing chaos, including popping car tires at the church with nails, throwing stones at members and their cars, and starting fires around the area. They have not re-entered the club since, though. Models have been mostly replaced and repaired thanks to some wealthy members of our community and other members who volunteered time with 3D printing. The painting process is ongoing. The autistic member of our community who detained one of the children that was attacking us and our property had to accept a caution from the police. The child alleged their arm was broken, sprained, or injured and was wearing a sling, but we caught them on camera riding a bicycle the next week with no sling signaling, and full mobility. This child repeatedly yells offensive slurs at this member when he sees him being collected by his mother. This child has not been arrested for doing so despite repeated reports of harassment. While we were contacted by major hobby companies, we have declined to accept donations from any of them. Any proposed donations were redirected towards local food banks. Mordak Tenebrae said, "These kids are worse than fucking a rebus." Party SR said, "The parents of those kids are not right in the head either." Damn it, Gravity said, "These kids and their families are going to have one hell of a wake-up call when they reach an age at which they can be legally arrested and charged, and their age is no longer a protection. I do think the parents should be held liable. Maybe if more parents were forced to take responsibility for their children, there would be fewer bastards like this in the world." Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.